Someone said to me during 2019 that the following year would be one which saw the world plunged into turmoil due to a pandemic. I'd have dismissed them, perhaps even suggesting that they take a lie down. Perhaps a more recent event suggests that lying down isn't something that traditional Catholics should do with ease. Although my primary duty today is to reflect on 2020, and whatever your view is of the year, the fact is COVID-19 did so much to cause the world to grind to a complete standstill. In March, the Catholic Church in England and Wales, abiding by the directives issued by the respective Westminster and Cardiff governments, quickly shut up shop, along with most of the country. Sadly, the sacraments were relegated to the level of non-essential retail, or quaffing a pint of beer in the local public house. This clearly had ramifications for our usually extensive programme, as one by one our regular Mass and special events calendar experienced curtailment. Before the restrictions were introduced, we held a Requiem Mass for Colin Morby, may he rest in peace. Mr. Morby was for many years a patron of the Latin Mass Society. There were periods of restriction respite, and some events did take place, albeit without congregations. Namely our annual Requiem Mass, live streamed from Westminster Cathedral, and the annual Mass in reparation for abortions, live streamed from the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Bedford. People were able to attend Mass on Christmas Eve in St. Margaret's Convent Chapel in Canning Town. Some of the regular Mass venues did recommence, and regretfully some Masses have not recommenced for various reasons. We had to make some assessments very quickly on how the society would operate in these circumstances, and so a programme of online events took place to go part way to providing some sort of spiritual solace to our supporters. An early initiative was the coordination and publication of a comprehensive listing of streamed Masses and offices from around England and Wales. Some notable online events were a one-day conference on what would have been our AGM last July. This began with Mass live streamed from St. Mary's, Warrington. Speakers during the day included Archbishop Gullickson, Bishop Schneider, Father Finnegan, whose good health we must continue to pray for as he recovers from illness, Monsignor Reid, Father Zulsdorf, and the Chairman, Dr. Shaw. As a substitute for our Walsingham walking pilgrimage, we organised a virtual event from the Shrine of Our Lady of Willesden to Walsingham via Cambridge. In addition to these, podcasts were recorded as substitutes for our Iota Unum talks, and chant training was undertaken. Our Macklin Street staff worked well. They worked from home. Whilst much of the year was a lesson in treading water, we continue to operate with our online sales maintaining a healthy turnover during the reporting period. I thank the staff for their continued commitment and for maintaining high levels of motivation under testing circumstances. 18 months after the initial restrictions were imposed, COVID-19 continues to be problematic. It is perhaps timely in this address to mention His Eminence Cardinal Burke, who announced he had contracted the virus at the beginning of the week, and I'm sure he is in all of our prayers. I always conclude my report with a call for our members to carry on supporting us in prayer and with financial support. Today I do not change this. However, prevailing conditions make this call even more poignant and urgent as we steer through choppy waters placed before us. They want us to capitulate. We will not. They want us to go away. We will not. They want to sow the narrative that we are the problem. We are not. They want the old right to fall into disuse. It will not. They, our opponents, are a broad brushstroke. Those roaring lions that go about wanting to devour our legitimate preferences extend beyond the corridors of the Vatican. These individuals within the liberal modernist elite have simply revelled in the spiritual demolition of many souls that the motu proprio has brought about. These acerbic characters seek with some success to act as courtiers to prelates with decision-making responsibility in Rome, and in my view ought to be treated with caution. Referring to the Vetus Ordo, the great Michael Davis said in his book, The Tridentine Mass, The Mass That Will Not Die, this: "It is hard to believe that many of those now exercising authority in the Church appear to have as their dearest ambition the obliteration of the most sacred prayer from the face of the earth. And it would be too outrageous to suggest that where they do manage to obliterate the sacred prayer, the sacrifice which enshrines it may vanish too." Mr. Davis didn't speak prophetically. He spoke of the time, a time we thought was behind us, a time we have crept back toward. Some may say hurtled towards, given the breakneck speed of the recent promulgation. Each of us has a duty. Michael Davis encapsulated that duty in another of his excellent writings, The Legal Status of the Tridentine Mass. Initially quoting from St. Thomas Aquinas, he said, "St. Thomas explains that for a law to be just, it must conform to the demands of reason and have an effect which is both good and for the benefit of those whom it is intended. A law can cease to bind without revocation on the part of the legislator when it is clearly harmful, impossible, or irrational. It would certainly constitute an abuse of authenticity for a pope to forbid the celebration of so hallowed, venerable, and Catholic a rite as the Tridentine Mass. Should it be done, there is a sound case to justify the faithful in resisting him, based upon accepted norms within Catholic theology." End of quote. We don't advocate disobedience, but we must make our message heard on appropriate local, national, and global platforms. We have the mechanisms and channels to do this. So making the message heard is important, but having our message understood appropriately is even more important. Perhaps, in the eyes of Rome, a message has been heard, but perhaps a misunderstood or misleading message. Only in February, the Roman Pontiff said, "The Church evangelizes by the beauty of the liturgy. Let us ask for the personal and sincere meeting with Christ, who lives in the liturgy, that our lives may be a spiritual sacrifice offered to God." It is the beauty of the old rite which is a particular strength. I acknowledge there are others. However, we should promote the unique beauty and why we want the traditional Mass at every chance, rather than waste time looking for deficiency in other rites. It is unhelpful for Catholics, be they left or right, liberal or conservative, mainstream or traditional, to trade derision based on the particular form of Mass that the other prefers. If a Mass is celebrated in accordance with applicable liturgical norms, and with all due respect for our Blessed Lord in the Eucharist, we must accept that those who gain a transcendental fulfillment from these legitimate liturgies over than our own preference. Other forms of Mass may not be our cup of tea. Don't drink the tea then. As Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI intended, we should promote our cause within the context of accepting two forms of the same rite in coexistence with one another, a liturgical tranquility. Guardians of Tradition is the English name of the motu proprio. It is we, traditionally minded Catholics, a strong faith, standing together with courageous clergy and bishops who can claim guardianship. It is we who will ensure that the Mass of Ages never falls into disuse. To quote St. John Paul II, it is our rightful aspiration. Thank you for supporting the Latin Mass Society.